Hello, MGTOW. Hello, men. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I want to ask the question, are there any good women left in Western civilization? And I suppose the answer to this question has a lot to do with good for what. But before I get into it, let me just say thank you to everybody who's been stopping by, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, even donating. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and click on the subscribe button, click on the bell symbol next to it, and accept the email notifications, because there's a lot more content like this, and I would really appreciate it. Now, let's get into it. Are there any good women left in Western civilization? And of course, the question becomes, good for what? All of these questions have qualifiers on them, and they're all dependent. They're all taken within context. And I'm, of course, talking about good for getting together with men, building families, and building a future. And again, it's not a subjective question. The answer to the question is dependent on, can they fulfill this function anymore? In other words, do you have a good car? And it's not a subjective question as to whether or not you like the car. It's a question as to whether or not the car performs the function of a car. So the question, are there any good women left in Western civilization, from a male point of view of getting together, marrying, bonding with these women, and having children, and then building families where the children are strong and the future becomes secure? If they cannot fulfill that function, then they are certainly not good for that role. That's the question. Not are they good for becoming media celebrities. And I don't think very many people are going to disagree with me. It's based on the population rates. It's based on whether or not your civilization, your culture, your values, your ethics are sustainable if they're going to move forward. Another question might be, are they worthy of moving forward? But that's a slightly different video. So the question becomes, are women capable of getting together with men and building families? And that is what we're calling, or I'm referring to, as a good woman. Now, certainly biologically, they're capable of doing it, aren't they? Or at least they once were. Feminizing the males within Western civilization, within any civilization, is a very predictable process. But making the women masculine, that's a little more unclear. We know that strong men build civilization. And as that civilization becomes stronger, it takes away the strength of the men. It feminizes them to make them civilized and to conform with the rules of the group. So the very thing that the good, strong, capable men build, which allows the prosperity of the civilization, of the culture, once it gets to a level where women and weaker men can run the apparatus of the civilization, there is no more need for the innovative, daring, chance-taking, aggressive men. They become a burden, and so their qualities are discouraged. And this is fairly predictable. Like, you can understand what a man with 25% less testosterone is and how he will behave. But what about a woman with 25% more testosterone or less estrogen? And I don't mean to simplify the equation, but I think it actually serves a really useful purpose, because I think that's, what we're looking at. We are looking at unrestrained female sexuality. Didn't the recent royal wedding have the lines "to honor and obey" stripped from the wedding vows? Isn't that great? You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be great to have a wife that doesn't honor you and won't obey you, right? Not that people should obey you, but the idea that a person considers any sort of restraint on their behavior oppression. Sound familiar? I'll bet it does. And this is not limited to female behavior, right? Because the men, they engage in it as well. Any constraint, any limit on their behavior, which is from objective reality, is considered oppression and part of the patriarchy, and therefore a reason to tear down the system and to rail. Everyone's a critic. So it's like giving a child everything that it wants and allowing it to manipulate the circumstances and not holding the child accountable for its actions and behavior. And it creates a person with very little character, with very little substance, a person who finds fault with other people and who causes trouble in life. Recently there have been some guys who came into MGTOW, and I will tell you, it is a great misfortune to me to have known them. I have taken nothing from it. I would have helped build them up. But for me to know them, for Howard Dare to have come into contact with them, means I have to, lose money because I know them, because they're, destructive and harmful and hateful people, right? They don't help people. So this is what I'm saying. people who come in and find fault and then destroy the things around them. They don't offer value to the world. They don't come and they say, I'll do this job. They come and they say, I'll tear this thing down. I'll steal from this. I'll break that. Sound familiar? It should. This is how women interact with men. They don't bring any value to the table. They don't perform their function. They're part of the deal, their responsibilities of the job. As a matter of fact, to imply that they have responsibilities or a function, again, is taken as oppression. So go ahead, enjoy yourself, being an amorphous blob throughout life. And it's no joke. I mean, they literally assume the physical stature of their mental state. And I'm not giving people who are out of shape a hard time, because sometimes it is this emotional abuse. It is this manipulation that causes the individual to turn in on themselves. So they fail to maintain themselves on purpose, but then they forget why they're doing it. Like someone stuck in an abusive relationship who's being abused, and so they overeat. And they enjoy overeating. Right? And so eventually they just get into the habit of overeating regarding any sort of an emotional problem. And they forget, that they were doing it because parent was an alcoholic. Sorry. And now they just overeat. Now they're just in terrible shape. And now they have this horrible attitude towards life. Right? So it's not the right way to move forward. And yet you can see how this mistake happens. Whenever anybody bucks up against some failure, or has a serious problem, whenever somebody doesn't get the results that they want in life, they could respond in these two different ways. And the women and the people that the system, which was built by strong men, is now automatically taking care of. When they have these problems, the system is adapting for them and accommodating them in their failure, in their weakness. It's a maladaptive system, right? So yeah, I mean, would you even want to get together with a woman as she is in this day and age? What are you going to do? Create slaves for the state who despise you as a man and require your sacrifice without any reward and only using negative reinforcement to control you? It's like the life of a dog with a horrible master. So this is what men are looking at. So no, there are no good women left because they cannot fulfill the function that men need them to fulfill. They actually want to compete with men. And here's the thing, women, I'll tell you, okay, you cannot compete with men. The only reason why you can compete with men is because the men let you compete with them because they don't want to hurt you. That's it. There's no such thing as competition between a man and a woman because the man he doesn't want to beat her. He doesn't want to win. He wanted to help her. Okay, but the woman does want to destroy the man, and the man doesn't realize it because the boys are raised to worship the women, and they're biologically suited to worship the women. So it really is like going into a boxing match with somebody that can't fight, but that you can't strike. You won't. You're just biologically conditioned not to hit them and to let them hit you. So that's competition between a man and a woman. And as far as the idea that there are instances where men are, oppressive and abusive towards women, yes, there are. It's not what we're talking about. Those are individual instances of injustice, of crime, of indecency. They are not institutionalized. There's a big difference between an aberration within the system versus an injustice which is built into the system. The idea of weighting the system towards equality of outcome is obscene. It's unjust. It's unfair. If a person doesn't work, they don't eat. They should not get paid. If you don't deal with your problems in life, you are destined to be overcome by the problems that you failed to address. Nobody's being unfair to you. That is the way of life. That's it, okay? If you don't open the window, the room is stuffy. That's all. It's not injustice. If you don't take care of your health, you lose your health. It's not unfair. I hope you appreciate that the men are conditioned to sacrifice, to worship the women, to want to be part, of the group that they are not part of, and they don't realize it. So they're not going off to build happy families and then, carry on useful traditions and values that are sustainable, that are noble, that are, that is virtue, that are effective in objective reality. Notice it's the feminine, that's subjective, that's concerned with feelings, that wants to redefine justice and virtue. Honestly, do you want to live in a world where they don't really grade your papers? They just decide on who they like or who has a strong, higher victim status? Not even going to grade the papers, not even going to read the papers. We're just going to grade people relative to their victim status. Would you like to live in a world where 2 or 3 out of 10 people are held to the standards of objective reality? We're going to read their paper. We're going to grade their paper. The other 7 people, we're going to forgive 30% of the errors on their paper. How would you like to be functioning in that world? Well, you are. if you're a man, if you're a hardworking, virtuous man who's honest, you are working in that world. And where are the good women? Where are the women who would speak up for their sons, for their brothers, for their friends, for their lovers, for their husbands? Where are they? I have not. There's a few of them, right, online, speaking out in alternate media. There's a few of them speaking out in public, from a conservative point of view. And don't think I'm being political. I'm not. I'm being moral and ethical. In any case, I'm going to leave that for another video. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And if you appreciate this type of content, you might want to consider donating to the Howard Dare channel, because it would help me continue to make content, and I would really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate, and join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan to have more content for you. Thank you, MGTOW.